10 seconds remaining.
Yeah.
Phoenix's turn to pick. Radiant team pick. Phoenix's turn to pick. Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time. Radiant team ban. Phoenix's turn to ban. Radiant team ban. Phoenix's turn to ban.
Already went to MVP Phoenix, but we're moving into game number 2 now. I'm Lyrical Dota, joined today by Scant. Sir, how you doing? We got the picks going back the other way. It's Ancient Apparition, this time taken by MVP Phoenix into the Faceless Void, Slardar, and the Tusk.
Yep, it's just, I guess this is the Ancient Apparition sub-meta between these two teams, and interesting also seeing MVP Phoenix first phase ban a Lich. And I do recall recently when these teams met a week or two ago, TNC did take a game off MVP Phoenix with an early Lich pick, which really caused trouble. I think their approach in that game, if I remember correctly, was actually to use the Lich to protect an Alchemist, but either way, MVP are like, that's not something we want to be against. And TNC, I don't know if you saw their first two picks were almost instant, the Void and the Slaughter immediately after the AA, so I guess they have a thing for bashing. They like heroes that bash people, and who can blame that? In these kind of action-packed fighting scenarios, why not be able to bash?
Yeah, it's like it's the Bash Brothers from the Mighty Ducks 2, where they face off against the Icelandic team. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe? No?
I did watch
Emilio
that film, but
Estevez?
like I don't remember it that well.
Yeah,
So,
I watched it like last week. That's what you meant, like a long time ago, right? That's no, okay, just me.
no.
All right.
Sorry.
Anyways, I'm gonna move on.
it is, yeah.
I'm not good at telling jokes. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, me neither. That's fine. It's gonna be the Clinks this time for TNC. So this is, what's fascinating about this? They picked all their cores as their first 3 picks. This is not a thing that you see very often. Slaughter can be run as a support. It has been sometimes in the past, but it's not what you expect when you see a Slaughter. The Clinks almost always for TNC, by the way, is a Teehee hero in the mid lane. They could give it to Raven for the safe lane, and I've seen Teehee played once in the safe lane, but I'd say 99% of the time when they run Clinks, it's mid for Teehee, which is unusual for most teams. Most teams don't play it in the mid lane, but Teehee really likes it there. And it's going to be a Venge pickup now for them, which is going to boost the damage of everyone. So it's looking pretty good on TNC side in terms of the damage output of the amp damage and the Venge.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting draft already, and we've got the amp damage from them, the Slardar, Clinks naturally with those searing arrows. You get caught in any of these combos, either a Crush or a Chronosphere, or even just a simple stun coming out from Vengeful Spirit, and it could be a lot of trouble. The Invoker is going to get taken for the moment, so also a bit of an interesting one. I guess, I feel like I remember seeing QO play a Quas Wex, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of times. I'm not sure if he always ends up playing it, but it feels like that could be a nice setup here, considering all the other combos that they've got. I guess you could also just end up going straight into, like, a snowball into Walrus Punch with a Sunstrike. Either way, it feels pretty good.
Yeah, there's a very memorable game which Q had playing Invoker against TNC, in fact, where at one stage in the game he was the only hero alive on his team, and TNC were trying to rush, and he managed to stall them on his own, just like 1v5. So that's the thing he's done, although MVP's also juggled the Invoker players. There was a stage where Kyo wasn't playing it, so it was only MP playing it, and I believe people say that Kyo hadn't mastered the hero yet, but then he was practicing it, and then he played it as their main Invoker player. So as with most of their cores, Kyo and MP quite interchangeable, can be either of them playing the hero. It's going to be the Juggernaut ban for TNC, which doesn't really give us any insight either, because that's also a hero that both Q and MP can play. So it's not like we get to see what they think who the Invoker is going to be this game.
10
Yeah.
seconds remaining.
I feel like it could really go away there, and I do like also
5
the
seconds remaining.
as far as like the way that I see these games already going, TNC looked to want to try and take towers themselves this time, and that was sort of a problem with that last fight or last game, was that they weren't able to run down any of the towers. We commented on it several times, and so this like minus armor strategy to me feels very much reminiscent of just trying to run in there, maybe even sneak a Roshan of their own. I'm not sure if that's what they're going to go for, but it's certainly a possibility.
Yeah, it's true. It was a huge problem last game. There were like 2 or 3 team fights that they'd won very convincingly, and despite that, they didn't kill a single tower. I mean, it's just like it's a rarity for a team to win a big team fight and not get an objective. Never mind several big team fights. So they'll cover that base this time. They've got the Clinks, they've got the Venge. It's more than enough. And MVP who go back for the Spectre. So now that suggests very strongly to me that it's going to be MP playing Invoker and Kyo playing Spectre. Again, they do play both, but I think that the Kyo Spectre is almost like a signature pick. In my opinion, it's one of his better heroes. I always point out that Kyo, I think, makes better use out of the multiple haunt ability than most other players. Like, he'll jump to one illusion, then jump to another, then jump to another, which hardly any Spectres actually make use of at all.
I remember seeing something like that where it was a Spectre caught between a Lion and a Rubik, I want to say, and they were trying to lock down one of those 2 illusions, and then they were just able to juke them out and head off the other direction. It was a really solid play. I don't remember if it was Kyo playing it necessarily that game, but certainly it's a possibility. Now you have like these massive, and this leads me to believe that it's going to be the Invoker going for a Quas Exort build here, because you've got massive amounts of global presence. So if Batrider catches anybody, you're going to be able to just explode them wherever they are all over the map. And this was, I feel like, one of the stronger points of MVP Phoenix's draft last game, was that they could just set up on somebody with the Clinks, roll in with an Earth Spirit, and usually find a kill. And just a very fast tempo style of game for MVP Phoenix. They're constantly going to be moving through these. What do you think about the Tiki Puck, though?
But I guess they decided in terms of, I don't know. I guess they decided in just some things to do with the draft in terms of what they want to do this game, that it's going to be a game for Raven to be on the Clinks. It obviously means it's going to be a safe lane Clinks, because they sometimes switch Tihi to, very rarely switch Tihi to the safe lane when it's one of his heroes, but you won't, I don't think you'll see them running unusual lanes unless it's for that purpose. And Tihi, I have seen him play Puck before, but it's, predominantly he plays the agility carry heroes from the mid lane, and sometimes he plays Jakiro in their push strategies, and sometimes, like once or twice I've seen him play Puck. He might have been playing it a bit more recently. I mean, I've been watching a lot and casting a lot more Chinese Dota recently, so I haven't caught all of their very recent games. And it's not like he's not capable of playing a great Puck. It's a similar story to, like, if you look at Team Secret now, people said when Arteezy joined the team, he plays the same heroes as Eternal Envy, what are they going to do? And they were like, well, he can go back to playing Puck, Invoker, etc., etc. And there was a stage a few years ago where Arteezy used to play those heroes. It's, Tihi as well, he's an incredibly gifted mid player. He's a very skilled player. He can play those heroes. They just decide, usually, that their preferred approach to the draft is for him to be on those scaling carries. And here, because they've got the Void, the Slaughter, and the Clinks, I guess they felt they didn't need it. And we did mention in the draft, but I'm just gonna come back to now. It is a support Slaughter, so it's like they've crept in a lot of damage output into their draft, with their supports being Slaughter and Vengeful Spirit, such that they don't need Tihi to be like a carry hero from the mid lane. Yeah, it's sometimes the Korean players have trouble in the Southeast Asian servers. I mean, I assume these games are all being played on the regular Southeast Asian servers, and they're not actually it's not actually the best ping for the Koreans. I mean, we typically consider them to be an SEA region team, but South Korea is not actually technically South Korea, right? And there's a big story about how going into the Shanghai major, the MVP were playing much more on Chinese servers against Chinese teams, waking up at certain times so they could do that. And that's where they got. I mean, a bunch of their players got to 8K MMR in the Chinese region, not in the Southeast Asia one. Yeah, although to be fair, if anything, it's pretty valid to say that MVP do even better when they're playing outside of Southeast Asia. It's they've quite consistently shown that their LAN performances are better than their online qualifier performances. And what's happened with MVP several times now is if we talk between the Shanghai Major and Dota Pit and WePlay, they will have these slumps online where they're losing against teams you don't expect them to lose to in the Southeast Asia qualifiers. Then they go to the next LAN and just win it. Make it look easy. So there's something to be said for the fact that they're not they're a team that's orientated around beating the top international teams more than beating the top local teams. And personally, I think TNC are situated in a similar position, and it's just like to their own detriment that they keep failing to get to lands, because I truly believe that TNC is a team that once they get to those lands, they will put up results. They'll surprise people. People will be like, who's this team I've never heard of, suddenly beating big teams. But unfortunately, that's the way it works. You have to qualify for a land before you go to it, and right now TNC 1 game down, and this is a elimination series. So if MVP were to take the game, that would be TNC's hopes at the summit's completely gone. Yeah, well, one of the players from Wings, I think it's Faith Bian, actually was studying in America for a year and he was playing in like American team. He was playing in Void Boys and what was the other one? Tong Fu NA. So presumably in the lobbies also, he's the one that usually comments when like the admins say, "Are you ready?" or "Do we need to wait?" So I think that at least one of them speaks decent English, and I did speak to their manager, but it's at the Shanghai Major, and he speaks pretty good English. So I imagine that it wouldn't be that difficult. Also, the summit tends to hire a translator. Usually, I think Josh is there, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. Of course, the trouble, if we're talking about qualifying for the summit, is that whoever wins this match still has to beat Fnatic. And Fnatic right now seem pretty clearly the team that's on top of the region. They're like big favorites to beat either of these teams in the finals, I would say. Just keep checking, and eventually you'll see the match on. It's like, it's the same time as today started, right? So it's, for Europeans watching, it'll be noon that the match starts, I think. No, CEST. Yeah, well, interestingly, it looks like AU sitting at the mid lane at the start. He did help out and denied a creep, took a little bit of XP, but he's going to be moving across now. He was just blocking the wave as well. And part of why TNC couldn't win that first rune fight, it's Lada was blocking the mid wave, wasn't there. It is AU the drafter for this TNC team. He and He have kind of been the backbone of the team for the longest time, and perhaps Sam H, you could say, on the offlane. QQ and Raven are the newer players to the team, and AU's kind of always drafting himself or T into these strange roles. It's not that uncommon at all, and support Slaughter, I'm interested to see what he does with it. If he go, like a lot of the time when he has these kinds of heroes, he does go for a greedy Midas. I don't think Slaughter's the one where you'd expect to see it. You know, if he gets into a lot of gold, it'll probably be a blink dagger this game. But also you're talking about the potential to kill the bat in the lane, and that's something that they could certainly try and do with both the Venge and the Slaughter and the damage output from the Clinks. Yeah, and it's also I think probably if you have a Spectre, it's a little bit greedier to run the cross Exort Invoker, because you want the Invoker to help to make space for Spectre to really get into the game and hit its sweet spots. Similar even for the Batrider, who might need some time farming the jungle. The cross Exort Invoker often spends time farming the jungle as well. So just like to fit into the draft that they have, I think it makes good sense to be cross Vex this game. Also very useful against the initiation power of the pack and the Slaughter on it. Faceless Void, be able to throw those tornadoes and counter initiate. So interestingly enough, we don't see him. I was talking about how T usually is mid lanes. There's early kill attempts one way or the other, but hasn't happened yet. Although we do see a rotation in from the Tusk Dubu, and might be MP. Yeah, they're gonna start with the cold snap, and nope, not gonna be anything there for them.
That should end up being a creep wave coming in, so a little bit more damage going their way. Sam H is going to continue to get a couple of levels here. Level 3 now. Compare that over to the Batrider, still having a decent time with it.
Yep, they're both doing okay, neither of them like being totally dominant. By the way, something else about Ancient Apparition, which MVP, when they had the Ancient Apparition early on against Execration, we noticed as well that the offlane Darks they struggled with. Back when this hero was popular as a support, one of the main things it was popular for is that it is actually very, very good at zoning out offlaners. It's very well suited. You know, you get extra value with that chilling touch. It's not just for those early fights at the rune, it's also just for like the crazy Ras power.
Yeah, it is very strong if you just level out a couple of those hits. MP in the mid lane, they thought about going on him as the Elusior had already been used. Meanwhile, bottom, the Perez Batrider is going to end up having to head on back, but still he's getting a nice chunk of experience here. He's really having a decent time in this off lane. Hasn't ended up dying, was able to be a part of an assist earlier. All in all, I think he's pretty happy with himself. And Void also, it's going to end up taking a little bit of damage. They threw out the dagger, throwing him back, but again, not a ton of action early. It's more just about trying to build up a little bit of an advantage. And as I say that, MP is actually going to get ran on a little bit there. Drops out the Dream Coil just to allow himself to escape for the moment. And trading right clicks, the EMP, they are going to be able to find the kill. Puck kills them off.
Yeah, would not be a match between these two teams without early 1v1 fighting going on in that mid lane. And this is actually T who gets the better of MP. And I mean, I don't know. I was about to make a comment about if it would be different as a queue, but I don't think that's appropriate to say because it's really not. It's, you know, T is a great player and plays around the EMP very well there, especially at the end to run forward. It's really interesting the low kills of the early game in both this game and the previous game, and it's something that people have talked about. Or let's just first see, there might be some action at the bot lane, but it doesn't look like it. There was a stage where people used to say Chinese Dota is very passive, and then there was a stage where you'd have a lot of matches between teams like Secret and EG, where the games are very passive early on. And really what it is, the common factor in all these things is teams that play each other a lot and know each other very well, you often have a situation where there's no kills early on, and it's not because there aren't kill attempts, it's just because they read each other's movements very well. So we've seen in this game and the last game a lot of early posturing. But it's kind of like they're doing this kind of choreographed dance where everyone knows that, you know, when you make that move, we make this move. And it's going to be TNC now going for a kill attempt on the task here at the bot lane. And if Raven can get a little bit of damage off, he only gets the one hit, just the reverse sword. Probably not quite enough. Very nicely timed snowball.
Yeah, that was really good there. Dubu, oh my god, and he also blocks them out there with the ice shards. He's trying to figure out if he wants to deny himself to Roche, but
here comes MP.
He's going to actually go for this one. They might be in a little bit of trouble. Raven chasing, goes to the skeleton wall. That's going to be a kill. They're also haunting in for this one, and it looks like they might be able to do just so much damage as everybody is dying here. They've already killed off 2, and it looks like they might be able to take down Forev as well. They're keeping close together, so the Deathslate damage isn't profiting onto them. Raven is not going to fall here. He is just going to be able to walk away from this one, and man, a pretty good fight right there for TNC. They end up being able to take down 3 and only lose the Slardar and the bench.
Yeah, 3 for 2. It's maybe it could have been even better for TNC, I want to say, but Dubu does really well to delay things so the Spectre and Invoker can get involved. Mid lane now, here's the ganking Slardar, and this is trouble for MP. Oh, got the Ghost Walk. Do they have the reveal? This is Sentry, he places it really late. Okay, that's a poor execution from AU. Because I think if he places a Sentry early, they will get the kill.
They did kill up in the top lane while that was happening. Faceless Void managed to head off Ancient Apparition, and just a collection of bashes, as well as the Vengeful Spirit rotating in, and they found that kill. So the gank mid does not end up succeeding, but the gank top does. And TNC off to a hot start here, and after game number 1 ended up losing that one, it feels like they've come back strong in game number 2.
Yeah, and the support Slardar is getting more down than the support Task at this point, and that's like, it feels like it's a slightly greedier pick, but if you get as much work done or even more work done, then it's kind of like something you're getting away with, because certainly once it's level 6, it's really going to add a lot.
Ooh, and looking for a little bit more. Teehee is going to be able to find Febby. There's the Dream Coil drop down. They do have a Crush that's going to end up coming out. Febby just drops. They find another kill. Teehee on a roll, and I think this is going to be building into an early Veil, as we actually see the Chronosphere bottom lane. They kill off 1. Clinks is able to finish off the Spectre there. They're looking for Dubu. Magic Missile comes out, looking for a bash. Can they find it? Not there as of yet, and they might have to call the retreat with that one. Man, all over the place right now, TNC.
Yeah, but unlike last game, TNC getting a kill advantage, but MVP are not like getting some kind of trade-off of pushing towers. In fact, MVP on the side this game that have real trouble with, if you look at the heroes they have in terms of pushing, especially with the Invoker going Quaswex, there's really no pushing power at all on MVP this side. So TNC have the pushing advantage, but are also getting a kill advantage, and I think that's a pretty positive sign for them.
Yeah. Well, the one thing you could also say for MVP, though, is they kind of have that that ace in the hole with the Spectre and being able to push it towards the late game. Granted, you still do want to get active early, but we haven't seen the rotation that comes in with a Spectre haunt in conjunction with a sort of a snowball and Sunstrike scenario. Obviously, you're not going to have Sunstrike because there's not many points in Exort, but it's still something to keep in mind that they have the ability to jump in on one of these heroes and potentially make something happen. And it looks like they're going to be looking for that opportunity right now with Haunt available, and Invoker is going to end up being able to jump in there, and there's the EMP Tornado, and actually going to haunt in on Sam, but don't connect with the dagger, and this is just going to be a walk away. They can't really afford to give away opportunities like that.
Yeah, the timing at this stage is quite difficult. I mean, he gets it slightly wrong, I think, with the EMP Tornado, but I think usually when you have a slightly higher airtime with the Tornado, then you can sort of guarantee the exact timing, whereas if you have a low airtime on the Tornado, you have to kind of... It's a risk, put that way, because you have to put the EMP first, and I don't know. He doesn't get the EMP to connect. The Void gets the time walk away, and unfortunately, that is a missed opportunity, which would have been pretty important for them, and quite a big commitment as well.
Yeah, it was just a failure to execute right there. That's basically what it comes down to, and it happens every now and then to the best of us. But they are going to jump in now and catch on to Feb. It is going to be an easy kill for them as he ends up going down. Clink's finishing that one off. And man, Raven is just on a really hot start. The Soul Ring completed now, building into the Medallion. I think it's actually finished and coming out to him on the Courier at this point, so could end up being a very quick Roshan if they want to go for it. Man, Kyo rather is not at all afraid of AU here.
Yeah, so there's a reasonably big timing coming out for MVP with the AA hitting level 6 and Batrider quite close to Blink. Here comes the first Ice Blast. They don't know he's level 6, so it could be caught unawares. It's TNC just going to fight into it.
Oh my god, the damage. Dubu is almost dead. The Invoker goes down, but does manage to get off the EMP. It hits onto Raven, but they don't have any follow-up at all. Yeah, the trade in the end is the Vengeful Spirit for the Invoker.
Yeah, I'm sure the plan to like show off the shiny new Ice Blast wasn't to kill support at the cost of the Invoker, so still a win for TNC.
You could say at this point, all right, there seems to be some issues. There was lag concerns at the start for MVP, but regardless of that, it does feel like TNC's movements around the map are just a little bit more polished. So it's not just that they're sort of a little bit of a failure at execution. It's also, to a large extent, I think, the TNC making really smart decisions as to where to fight.
Yeah, the difference also comes out of the mid lane, right? Tihi's pack is 3-0 and MP's Invoker is 0-3. And part of that is that the pack got the solo kill on the Invoker when they're 1v1ing, but it's also that the Slardar could gank into the Invoker. Invokers are more susceptible to gank hero in the mid lane, whereas the Tusk couldn't really gank into the pack. I mean, he tried to early on, but it's a pack. So in terms of like if you look at the net worths, Tihi's pack is right at the top, Invoker's all the way down there in the middle, and that's kind of the controlling heroes via the draft. It's gone much better for TNC.
Absolutely. And I think that now they're going to end up trying to remedy this a little bit. The EMP is going to end up hitting, as does the AA Blast, so building back a little bit of an advantage going his way as Invoker finds the kill, but in the same breath, we're going to see TNC take down the bottom tier 1 tower here. Saving a little bit of mana there with the Syrian arrows, and it is going to end up falling down. So, pretty well played. I do think that MVP can probably maybe punish this in the top lane as well, but they're still a long ways off being able to build into any of these big items. I mean, Invoker, he's still, what, 1,200 gold away from a Midas?
Yeah, so farm progression not looking great for him, and I'm pretty sure TNC won't want to give up this top tier 1, and we did talk about a weakness in MVP's draft for TNC at last games. They don't naturally push very well, so can't put that pressure. Tihi's actually looking for initiation here.
A little bit of a bad one. He didn't end up being able to get the silencer. The AA Blast is going to come through. Actually ends up connecting, and a lot of damage going down. I think if they find one, might be able to get another. Sammy actually jumps in. He doesn't have mana for Chrono because of the EMP. Oh, really nice haunt away there. He doesn't end up getting hit by the first blast, and Dubu is going to fall. QO maybe a bit far forward, but the Batrider is also going to be trying to bring them back into the fray. They bring him up on the high ground, and Freb just trying to run away for the moment. It looks like Raven might end up falling. His MP is back in the mix, and AU getting ran down. Also, already 2 dead, maybe going to be able to get a little bit more. This is the crunch, and going to be able to fall as Cuckoo ends up being the last right-click killed by Spectre. Man, DD up on QO. He's really happy after that fight.
Yeah, and the vision advantage there was pretty big there as well. If we look at these, there's a ward and a sentry here for the side of MVP. And TNC, when they came into that fight, they didn't have any vision. They didn't know that actually the whole team was there, and they get caught out. Puck goes in deep, and turns out there's too many heroes there. Then Void jumps in and gets EMP'd, can't use the Chronosphere. And the Klinks almost manages to do the trick alone, just with all the damage output. But Klinks is one of those heroes. It's a bit like Queen of Pain. When you blink forward, you get a lot done, or suddenly your blinks on cooldown, you're in the middle of them and you're fragile. And that's what happens with Klinks. You go in, you get your damage out, but if you're not killing enough heroes, your ulti runs out and you don't really have a neat escape mechanism, and suddenly you're very fragile.
Yeah, that was, you imagine had that team fight gone a little bit different, if Puck just gets the silence immediately and then is able to get out, but was not the case this time around, and they're going to roll in now onto Cuckoo with the A-Blast followed up, over punch, a quick and easy one, as she ends up, well, swap back, maybe making it a little bit more difficult, but I think that she's still going to go down. Maybe not. Cuckoo's just running away from him for the moment and ends up being able to heal up through the AA blast. They drop down a Chronosphere on the 3. Can they follow it up with anything more, though? It doesn't look like it. Vengeance Spear actually the one that ends up being able to get the kill, and Sam H going to be pulled back. He is going to fall. So they end up trading essentially. I mean, the Faceless Void hits a nice chrono, but there wasn't anything else to follow it.
Yeah, I think that MVP are really excelling at the vision game in this series, in this game as well. It's just, if you look at where the plays are happening, the plays keep happening in places where MVP's wards are up. And TNC have 3 wards up in a region of the map that nothing's happening there at all. So they're playing blind essentially, because none of these interactions are happening anywhere where they can see things. And maybe things turn in their advantage if they start getting into fights there. If they go for the tier 2 bot, for example, or fight the rush pit.
Oh, they're all grouped up together. AU is going to be able to maybe hit a big crush. She doesn't connect on anybody, and now Blaven in a little bit of trouble, getting ran down. Oh, they end up actually pushing him over the shards, but I think he ends up still going down. Yeah, Batrider found the kill, and Teehee just trying to escape for the moment. Cuckoo getting ran down now with the right clicks as well as the urn, and there's the cold snap. He should end up falling, and Dagger gonna go through, maybe, possibly, alive on 16 HP. He actually walks away from him for the moment. As trying to find the kill, MP is not going to be able to do it, but a reinitiation is imminent.
Things are going horribly wrong for TNC. They keep ending up in fights where they go in one at a time, and they really lose out as a result of that. Like I think their lineup is pretty well suited to winning fights at the moment if they're fighting together, but this whole one at a time thing is never going to work.
It's really been a bit of a fall off cliff there. Dubu ends up just barely being able to survive through that one, and now they're going to be able to just get the counter initiation, man. That wave of terror almost found the kill. And actually going to be able to pull back AU. Venge doesn't actually have 6 or mana for the swap at this point, and now Slarder completely out of position is going to fall. Febby alive on nothing. Is going to be able to throw out the AA blast and connects it onto Teehee. Now he's going to end up going down. They kill off the Tusk, but oh man, it just feels like from bad to worse.
Yeah, this Prospects Invoker is doing everything now, by the way. Every fight he has the EMP that's just so damaging. I don't know if you saw the Venge TP. Okay, Venge probably gonna die now as well, but at the start of that fight, QQ TP'd into the tower and immediately got EMP'd. Like, as he landed, the EMP went off, he had no mana, and he used the wave, which almost got that last kill, and that was his mana gone. He couldn't do anything. So, on the one hand, TNC had a few of these fights where they're going in one at a time, they're not coordinated. On the other hand, we have these fights where one of the heroes importantly just doesn't have any mana when the fight starts, and they're not getting the opportunity to do what they want to do, to approach the fights they want to, the way they want to approach them. Like, TNC are not getting the clean initiations that they're hoping for, and MVP are just starting to pull ahead.
It really does feel like it's falling out of their control, and I don't really see anything on the side of MVP that seems spectacularly amazing. It's just they're taking fights on their terms, and you look now at this Spectre who's gonna have a relic up at 18 minutes after what was not a great start for them. She ended up dying in lane, and 5-1-7 since then. It's just been a spectacular game since a bit of an innocuous start, and now the Smoke Ink is gonna come. Haunt is again available, as is the AA Blast, and man, if they get caught out by Sam H, they're going to be able to pull him back right at the start of this one. If the AA Blast, he ends up going down with the Walrus Punch. A quick and easy one, and now going to be able to find AU as well. Heat drops, looking for TE, going to be able to throw out those ice shards, and is going to orb away for the moment, but no blink is going to be available as that Urn is on him.
I really think this is a story of two mids where the first 10 minutes the pack did much more, and the next, well, okay, Klinks does get a kill, but now he's isolated himself, and I think they just go for Klinks straight up, and this is what I talked about. Once Klinks is committed, he's pretty fragile and susceptible to being burst on.
They go back for the last kill there. Kuo ends up being able to find it. Meanwhile, Cuckoo goes down, and Tier 1 tower is finally going to fall for MVP, but the more important thing is that this is only 300 gold away from a Radiance on Spectre at just about 20 minutes after going back for the Vid Booster, Phase Boots, and Aquila. So incredibly farmed Spectre at this point in the game, and TNC just keep on trying to take these fights, but it's always on MVP's terms. They're never getting the initiation, and you said it, it all stems from this vision advantage. I mean, look at the vision advantage from the Dire right now. They've got all of the vision over their jungle, and they're just no response, really.
You know, the problem all starts with this fight that happens up here that TNC lose, because up until that point TNC were ahead and their vision was on the other side of the map, and they're expecting it's fine to have vision there because we're about to be aggressive. We're going to push the tier 2, we're going to secure the rush pits, and that's where they think the game's going to happen. So they commit 3 observer wards to that area of the map, and as it turns out, after they lose the fight in the top river, they're not as far ahead as they were before, and they can't dictate the pace of the game. The game doesn't happen where they want it to be happening, and they have that huge vision disadvantage, that vision deficit, which means that MVP are fighting on their terms all the time. So TNC now going for a smoke play into the rush pits, and they do have a very fast rush kill. Yeah. So this will probably succeed, although the Ice Blast is coming in, and there's no Spectre Horn just yet, and Spectre doesn't even have mana, so maybe they can still finish it. TNC look a bit apprehensive.
Yeah, this is scary. I'm actually going to be able to catch right on the edge of that tornado onto AU. It's, man, I try to imagine this game, how it would have looked if TNC, instead of trying to take that fight up in the top lane, had gone to Roche 5-7 minutes ago. Because they probably could have taken it. It would have needed to be either snuck or trying to maybe at least fight around that area where you said they had the vision with the observer wards, but getting maybe slightly baited into an engagement there and not being able to find it, it really has not gone the way they've wanted to.
Smoke into smoke, and if TNT can start on Spectre, it's huge, but Spectre Horns senses something, and
oh, yeah, this is going to be the Chronosphere. Actually only connects on a TD, but still it's a huge one. They're not going to be able to bring him down, and Raven getting controlled. QO is already on a double kill, and MP unstoppable streak. Nobody from MVP goes down. The Chronosphere caught the pup.
And MVP actually initiated on an illusion. But even though they initiated on an illusion, they still win the fights. They're just more. I mean, it really helps. You talk about vision advantage, people don't often talk about, but if a fight starts your Spectre haunting, suddenly your team could see all the enemy team and you have a clear idea of what you want to do. So that, forget about wards, like your Spectre used once and now you know. It was pretty close to TNC initiating on the Spectre, and if they had burst on that Spectre before it got the horns off, totally different fight, but you know, they were onto it's funny, it's kind of like MVP saw an illusion, and I think that's why they reacted, used the horns, and Bap used the ulti on the illusion, but they still win the fight just because they get the horns off and then they know what they want to do.
Man, what a different game that we're expecting to see. Cuckoo trying to finally de-ward, but he's going to end just his game brought down again, and Kilo is getting everything that he wants this game. Radiance, Vitality Booster, Phase Boots, Aquila, now 1,600 gold on top of it. GG gets called, they're done. Oh yeah, my god.
They're crumbling. I mean, this can't be good for their morale. TNC is probably on a space right now, not happy with themselves. They felt like the game was going really well, and they were right. It was going really well to a point, and suddenly things just really turned around. I mean, they were controlling the tempo of the game. They were ahead, and it just. I really think that fight was a major turning point, and it was a bit of. It was just you got to give credit to MVP that they had good vision up to push, even though their lineup wasn't good at pushing, and that when TNC came and like sloppily tried to defend the push.